Okay, let's just dive right into this. And I want to kick things off with a pretty bold claim, but I promise you, it's one that is literally going to save you hundreds, maybe even thousands of hours of frustration. Here it is. You have been using AI completely wrong. Now wait, don't click away. And please, definitely don't take that as an insult. I genuinely consider this to be a helpful, friendly wake-up call for all of us. If you're someone who has been experimenting with tools like ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, Copilot, you name it, and you've walked away from the screen feeling like the results were just, I don't know, kind of generic, a little boring, or just generally underwhelming, I have some good news for you. The problem actually isn't the technology. The technology is astounding. The problem is your workflow. I want you to use a little brain sketch metaphor with me here. Picture your own brain on one side of a blank canvas, all your expertise, your taste, your nuanced understanding of a problem. And on the other side of that canvas is a glowing, super-powered computer matrix that has read essentially everything ever written. But the bridge connecting your brilliant brain to that supercomputer is just this tiny, flimsy little thread. That flimsy thread represents how the vast majority of people are communicating with AI today. We are giving these incredibly complex, capable systems incredibly weak context. We're giving them lazy instructions, absolutely zero human judgment, and then, for some reason, we're totally shocked when we get a weak, plasticky answer in return. Well, throughout this explainer, we are going to completely redraw that mental sketch. We are going to build a massive, reinforced bridge between your brain and the machine. We are going to transform you from a frustrated, casual user into an absolute master collaborator. And we're going to do it by exploring exactly how your brain should be interacting with these models. So if you want to stop getting that generic AI slop and start getting world-class, highly specific results, stick with me. We're going to break it all down. So, let's talk about the most common trap. This is the absolute biggest mistake that almost everyone makes on day one. And honestly, a lot of people are still making it on day 100. We call it the search box mistake. Think about how we've all been trained to use the internet for the last 20-something years. Traditional search engines, like Google, they essentially act like a vending machine, right? You walk up to it, you press a button, meaning you type in a quick query, and the machine mechanically drops a prepackaged snack down to you. It retrieves an existing, static page that some other human being already created, packaged, and published. But here is the massive mental shift you have to make. Generative AI is not a vending machine, not even close. Generative AI is like having a master chef standing inside a completely empty kitchen. When you ask it a question, it doesn't go to a dusty shelf in the back and grab a pre-written answer. It cooks a brand new response from scratch, right then and there, dynamically, based entirely on the ingredients you give it. Now imagine you walk into a high-end kitchen and you just yell at the chef, "Make me food." You don't explain your dietary restrictions, you don't tell them your taste preferences, you don't even tell them what ingredients are actually stocked in the fridge. You just say food. Well, you really can't be mad when the chef just shrugs and hands you a plain, unflavored bowl of oatmeal. When you treat AI like a search box, you are completely abdicating your responsibility to shape the task. You ask one vague three-word question, you accept the very first answer it spits out, and then you walk away feeling like the tool is overhyped. But the reality of the situation is this: because the AI is constructing the response from scratch, pixel by pixel, word by word, you are fully responsible for setting the parameters of that construction. You have to draw the blueprint before the AI can build the house.
And this comparison brilliantly illustrates the immediate difference between tossing a coin into a vending machine and actually giving instructions to your master chef. Look at the left side. Explain photosynthesis. We've all typed prompts exactly like this, right? It's a lazy instruction. What happens here is that the AI has to guess what you actually want. And because you give it no boundaries, it's going to revert to the most average, safe, probable response. It's probably going to give you a stiff, dense textbook definition that you honestly could have just found on Wikipedia in half the time. But now let's look at the right side. Explain photosynthesis for a 12-year-old using a kitchen analogy, then give a 5-question quiz and correct my answers after I reply. Wow. Now that isn't just a clever prompt, this is actual task design. Notice exactly what we've mapped out in this mental sketch. First, we've set the target audience, a 12-year-old, so the AI immediately knows to adjust the vocabulary. Second, we've defined the stylistic flavor, a kitchen analogy. Third, we've established a highly specific structural format, a 5-question quiz. And finally, we've even set up an ongoing interactive workflow by telling it to correct my answers after I reply. Even without knowing which specific underlying AI model you're using, you can instantly see that the second output is going to be infinitely more valuable. It's going to be engaging, tailored, and practically useful. And here's the best part. Getting that better result didn't require you to be some genius programmer writing code. It literally just required you to stop treating the AI like a magic 8-ball answer machine and start treating it like a collaborative tutor that needs your specific direction. So how do we systematically fix this habit? How do we rewire our brains to get the most out of this tech? Well, here is the ladder mapping out the 5 distinct levels of AI mastery, and this is entirely based on the latest 2026 research trends. I want you to look at this and just mentally place yourself on this ladder right now. Be honest with yourself. Level 1 is the search box user. This is exactly what we just talked about, and it's where the vast majority of people are completely stuck. They ask incredibly simple questions, they expect perfectly finalized answers, they get shallow, generic responses, and then they blame the tool. Then we step up to level 2, the prompt user. This user has had that aha moment. They realize they need to add roles, goals, and constraints to their requests. Their answers instantly improve because the model finally has a clearer target to aim at. But then we hit a massive leap at level 3, the workflow user. This user fundamentally stops asking for one-shot miracles. Instead, they break complex tasks into stages: research, outlining, drafting, critique, and revision. They treat AI like a process, not a button. Moving up, we hit level 4, the source-grounded user. This user knows that an AI's built-in memory is flawed and can hallucinate facts, so they don't rely on it. Instead, they actively feed the AI specific, verified documents, proprietary data, and personal notes to synthesize real, grounded facts. And finally, at the very top, level 5, the agent manager. This is the absolute cutting edge right now. This user doesn't just chat, they delegate actual actions to AI systems that can use tools like web browsers and software, all while maintaining strict safety boundaries and human oversight. Throughout the rest of this explainer, we are going to climb this ladder together, rung by rung, so you can completely future-proof your skills.
All right, let's firmly plant our feet on level 2, the context upgrade. This is where we start building a rock-solid foundation for everything else.
If you spend any time on the internet these days, you are absolutely flooded with people trying to sell you secret prompt hacks or PDFs full of magic wording. But I need to let you in on a little secret. The deeper, much more valuable skill isn't prompt engineering, it's context engineering. Let's sketch out another mental metaphor here. I want you to think of the AI as an extremely fast, undeniably brilliant intern. I mean, this intern is a prodigy. They can type 1,000,000 words a minute, they know literally every grammar rule in existence, and they have essentially read the entire internet. But there's a huge catch. This genius intern is effectively blind, and they have severe short-term amnesia. They don't know who you are, they don't know what company you work for, they don't know your brand's tone of voice, they don't even know what happened in your office yesterday. If you just give this intern a prompt, meaning a simple one-sentence instruction, it's like asking a robot to confidently walk forward through a thick fog. It might know the mechanics of walking, but it absolutely cannot see the terrain. It's going to bump into walls. Context engineering is the process of handing that intern a pair of high-tech night vision glasses and a hyper-detailed map of the terrain. It is the deliberate, thoughtful act of designing exactly what information the model actually sees and optimizes for. You see, prompting is just what you say to the AI, but context is what the AI can actually see to do its job. For a super simple task, sure, a clever prompt is fine. But for serious, professional-grade tasks, the model needs to see the surrounding environment. It needs to see your previous drafts, your strict definitions, your specific constraints, and your relevant files. You have to sketch out the world for it before it can operate within it.
To make this concept incredibly practical for your day-to-day life, I want you to imagine that you are packing a literal backpack for our brilliant but blind AI intern right before sending them out on a long hike to fetch your answer. If you send them out into the wilderness with a completely empty backpack, they are going to panic, grab whatever is closest, and bring you back some generic, unhelpful slop. So what specific gear needs to go into this context backpack? There are 6 essential items you should be mentally checking off every single time. First up is role. You have to tell the AI what function it's actually performing for you today. Are you asking it to be a strict line editor, a wildly creative brainstorming partner, a cynical risk analyst, or a patient math tutor? Give it a hat to wear. Second, goal. State the actual desired outcome, not just a vague topic. Don't just sketch out, write about marketing. Instead, draw the exact target. Help me understand the most cost-effective way to market a local bakery when I have absolutely zero digital ad budget. Third, audience. Who is this for? A financial script meant for seasoned Wall Street investors needs to sound entirely different than a script meant for high school students learning about money for the first time. Fourth, format. Specify the exact shape you want the answer to take. Are you looking for a simple checklist, a formatted table, a functioning Python script, or a professional bulleted memo? Tell it the shape. Fifth, constraints. Tell it what it should not do. This is huge. Keep this strictly under 300 words or do absolutely no technical jargon. Set the boundaries. And sixth, examples. Listen to me, this is the most underused tool in the entire AI toolkit. Provide one example of a style you really like and one example of a style you absolutely hate. Showing your taste to the machine is always infinitely faster and more effective than trying to explain your taste abstractly. I guarantee you, if you take an extra 60 seconds to pack these 6 items into the context backpack, your AI's output will transform instantly. It's like night and day.
Let's actually look at the context backpack in action out in the wild. We're going to compare a naked, empty backpack task like write an email to a fully equipped, heavily packed task like draft a polite but firm email to a client who missed payment, under 150 words, non-aggressive with one clear deadline. Now, with that first naked instruction on the left, the AI has absolutely no choice but to generate a bland, robotic, corporate-sounding template. And what happens next? You read it, you sigh, and you end up spending 20 minutes rewriting the whole thing yourself anyway. You save 0 time. But look at the right side. By packing the gear, giving it a clear goal, a nuanced tone, a strict word constraint, and a format, you turn the AI from a clumsy, annoying autocomplete feature into a highly tuned precision instrument. I really want you to think about the personal and business productivity that gets unlocked here. When you use AI this way, you aren't just saving the time it takes to type the words, you are outsourcing the mental drain, the cognitive friction of trying to find that perfectly delicate tone for an awkward situation. You bypass the writer's block simply by drawing the exact boundaries the AI needs to succeed. It's a complete game changer.
So, giving good, context-rich instructions is an amazing start, but it's really just the beginning. Let's keep climbing our ladder up to levels 3 and 4, building an AI workflow. This is where we stop looking for magic buttons entirely.
There is a phrase that I absolutely love, and I want you to burn this into your brain. The first AI answer is not the answer. It is the first draft of a conversation. Whenever the AI gives you that initial response, even if you packed a great context backpack, I want you to imagine that the AI is just slapping a big wet block of raw clay onto the table right in front of you. That's all it is. It's raw material. It has rough edges, it lacks fine human detail, and honestly, it might be slightly lopsided. A weak, level 1 user looks at that wet block of raw clay, crosses their arms, says, well, that's a pretty ugly statue, and just walks away disappointed. But a strong, level 3 workflow user, they look at the clay, they roll up their sleeves, and they immediately initiate a feedback loop. They start shaping the material, they push back, they challenge the AI's core assumptions, they reply and say things like, okay, this middle section is way too dry, make it punchier, or hey, you completely missed a critical counterargument regarding X, rewrite this entire paragraph to include it. The real undeniable magic of modern generative models isn't actually in their first guess. The magic is in their unprecedented ability to dynamically iterate, adapt, and respond to friction in real time. But here's the kicker, your job as the human in the loop is to provide that friction. You have to mold the clay.
So what does this highly iterative clay molding workflow actually look like in day-to-day practice? Well, I want you to imagine a cognitive conveyor belt. We'll call this the draft machine. Stage 1 on the belt is brainstorming. You don't ask the AI to write the final piece, you just use it to generate 10 wildly different possible angles or hooks for your project. You pick the best one. Then it moves to stage 2, the first draft. This is where the AI expands on that single best angle you chose. It slaps the clay on the table. Now, the belt moves to stage 3, and I have to tell you, this is the absolute secret weapon, using AI as a critic. Most people only ever ask AI to create things, but they rarely ask it to attack things. You take that first draft, you feed it right back to the AI, and you say, act as a ruthless top-tier editor. Find every logical flaw, every generic sentence, and every missing piece of evidence in this draft, and tell me why it's bad. Let me tell you, forcing the AI to aggressively critique its own generated work is phenomenally powerful. It will spot weaknesses you completely missed. Then we hit stage 4, human revision. This is where you, the actual living, breathing human, step in. You take that critiqued framework and you inject your unique voice, your personal anecdotes, and your actual lived experience. You add the soul. And finally, stage 5 is source fact-checking. Because, as we are about to dive into, separating creative brainstorming from factual truth is absolutely critical when working with these systems. Any truly complex task has to be decomposed into these distinct stages on the conveyor belt.
And that brings us to a very necessary, very sobering reality check. I want to ground everything we're talking about in the absolute latest research. This quote here is pulled directly from the Stanford 2026 AI Index report. It explicitly states, systems can be extremely strong in some benchmarks while still failing at apparently simple or practical tasks. Researchers call this phenomenon the jagged frontier of AI. I want you to sketch a mental line graph for a second. Imagine a capability line that shoots way up to the stratosphere, meaning the AI can easily pass a multi-state bar exam or write beautiful, flawless Shakespearean code.
But then, right next to it, the line suddenly plummets below zero because that exact same genius AI will confidently tell you that an adult elephant can easily fit inside a standard kitchen refrigerator. The capabilities are wildly jagged, and this jagged frontier creates a massive, dangerous behavioral trap for us as users. Why? Because the AI always writes with such perfect grammar, such beautiful syntax, and such unshakable fluency that our human brains naturally mistake that linguistic fluency for factual truth. We are evolutionarily wired to believe that if someone sounds extremely confident and highly articulate, they must know what they are talking about. But you must remember, AI models are probabilistic prediction engines. They are guessing the next most likely word. They are not truth machines. And this is exactly why scaling up to level 4 on our ladder, becoming a source-grounded user, is absolutely non-negotiable, especially when you are making high-stakes decisions.
So, how do we protect ourselves against this jagged frontier? We need to consciously install a truth filter right into our workflow. Imagine a giant mental sieve that catches all the false chunks, all the hallucinations, before they ever make it into your final project or decision. Here is your essential truth filter checklist. First, always check the original source. Did the AI actually cite a real existing research paper, or did it just invent a very convincing-sounding URL? Because it will do that. Second, verify dates. AI models have strict knowledge cutoffs. If you ask it for current tax policies or recent software documentation, you might get rules that are 3 years out of date. Third, confirm the evidence. Is the bold claim the AI just made actually supported by real-world data, or is it just a really smooth, good-sounding sentence? Fourth, challenge assumptions. Literally ask the AI, what specific conditions would make this recommendation you just gave me completely wrong? Force it to show its blind spots. And finally, assess the consequence if wrong. This is the big one. If you were using AI to brainstorm a fun pirate theme for a 6-year-old's birthday party, the stakes are effectively zero. Who cares if it hallucinates a game? But if you are using AI to research serious medical symptoms, to draft a binding legal contract, or to allocate financial investments, the consequence of a hallucination is incredibly severe. If the real-world stakes are high, never, ever stop at the AI's first answer. Run it through the sieve. Check the source.
Now, let's zoom out a bit and look at the macro picture of what happens when millions of people completely skip that truth filter. We are entering a phase that researchers are ominously calling the photocopy internet. We are seeing AI-generated content completely flooding search engines, social media feeds, and video platforms. People are out there asking AI for generic blog articles, generic video scripts, generic marketing emails, and then they are just publishing them directly. No human judgment, no source grounding, no iterative claim molding. It's creating an ocean of low-effort, mass-produced content that looks highly polished on the surface but contains absolutely zero original human insight. And this brings us to a truly fascinating and honestly slightly alarming concept that was published in a major 2024 Nature paper. It's called model collapse. I want you to imagine that I hand you a crisp, incredibly detailed, beautiful photograph of a landscape, and I ask you to run it through a copy machine. Okay, the first photocopy comes out looking pretty good. But then, what if I take that copy and I photocopy the photocopy? And then I take that copy and I photocopy it again. If you repeat this recursive loop over and over and over, what eventually happens? The sharp edges start to blur, the contrast completely fades, the unique, beautiful details just vanish, and eventually you are left with a piece of paper that is just gray, indistinct mush. Researchers have found that if future AI models are trained too heavily on recursively generated synthetic data, meaning if the AI starts learning primarily from other AI's slop instead of from messy, original, real human data, the models can actually lose touch with the original distribution of reality. Their outputs literally degrade. Now, this doesn't mean AI is fundamentally doomed to fail, but it serves as an incredibly powerful visual metaphor for why verified, original, human-grounded information is more vital right now than it has ever been in human history.
So the absolute crucial takeaway here for anyone out there who is creating content, making strategic decisions, or running a business is this: do not outsource your originality. AI is an undeniably incredible tool when it comes to organizing messy thoughts, summarizing huge documents, formatting data, and generating variations of an idea. It is an amazing engine to accelerate the tedious parts of your workflow. But listen to me, if there is no real unique human insight, no actual lived experience, and no verified source material in the input, there will be absolutely no human insight in the final output. It's that simple. For the creators and business owners watching this, platforms like YouTube and Google are already implementing highly visible AI labels and strict disclosure rules for realistic synthetic media. Why? Because audience trust is the premium, gold standard currency of the modern internet. If you use AI to just mindlessly mass-produce generic slop, sure, you might get a fun little short-term spike in your output volume, but over time, you will inevitably erode your audience's trust. Your ultimate goal should be to use AI to sharpen your human thinking,
to research things faster, to actively critique your own blind spots, but never, ever use it to replace your distinct, entirely unique human voice. Okay, let's pivot now and climb up to the absolute top of our ladder. Level 5, Managing AI Agents. We are actively shifting from an era of conversational AI into an era of agentic AI. And trust me, this completely changes the stakes.
Let's break this massive shift down with a really simple visual analogy. On the left side here, we have the standard chatbots that we've all gotten used to. Think of a chatbot like a really smart, well-read person sitting across from you at a desk, just giving you advice. You can ask them a complex question, and they will talk back to you. They answer. But importantly, they can't actually touch anything in your physical or digital world. They just sit there and talk. But on the right side, we have agents. Agents act. I want you to picture that exact same smart chatbot, but suddenly it magically grows little digital tool hands. It can now hold an email icon, a web browser, a live spreadsheet, your daily calendar, and a code editor. An agent is essentially like giving that smart person the actual keys to your office. They don't just tell you how you should probably reply to a difficult email, they can actually draft it, seamlessly open your email client, and hit send. They don't just tell you a theory for a meeting strategy, they look at your live calendar, find an open slot, and actively invite the necessary guests. This is an absolutely incredible leap in personal productivity. It feels like science fiction, but it requires a fundamental, immediate shift in how you manage the technology.
And that brings us to a very stark, very real warning. More power inherently needs more control. Think back to the search box mistake we talked about at the beginning. If you use an agent like a search box, meaning if you give a lazy, vague one-sentence instruction to an autonomous system that actually has the literal keys to your digital office, the cost of that mistake is no longer just a boring, slightly unhelpful paragraph of text. A bad instruction to a fully empowered agent could result in it permanently deleting the wrong project file. It could result in sending a highly confusing, weirdly hallucinated email to your biggest, most important client. It could execute a purchase for the wrong enterprise software or completely corrupt a critical financial spreadsheet. Think about it. You would never hire a brand new, enthusiastic intern, say, hey, fix my business, and then just leave the building for the weekend, right? Of course not. You would clearly define the exact task, you would set very strict boundaries, you would tell them precisely what tools they're allowed to use, and you would strictly require them to show you their work before they finalize anything. As AI fundamentally moves from simply answering our questions to actually acting on our behalf, your personal role has to shift. You are no longer just a prompter, you are now a manager.
So, to safely and effectively navigate this powerful Level 5 territory, you need to implement what we call the Agent Safety Protocol. Every single time you delegate a real-world task to an autonomous tool, you must enforce this specific mental checklist to ensure you maintain ultimate authority over the system. First, actively require the agent to summarize the task back to you. Before it does anything, make sure you know that it actually understood your actual goal, not just the words you typed. Second, have it list the steps it plans to take in order before it takes them. This acts as your transparent project roadmap so you can spot logical errors early. Third, identify permissions needed. You need to ask exactly which internal folders, cloud accounts, or software tools will this agent be accessing to pull this off. Fourth, and please listen, this one is critical, explicitly ask the AI to flag irreversible actions. If a planned action cannot be easily hit with Control-Z and undone, things like sending an external communication, deleting a database, or executing a financial transaction, it absolutely must be highlighted for your review. And finally, the ultimate golden rule of agent management: wait for human approval. The AI generates the grand plan, it queues up all the intricate steps, but the human being pushes the final execution button. You must keep the human in the loop. Following this protocol ensures that you get all the staggering speed and efficiency of automation without ever surrendering your executive responsibility.
Wow. Okay, we have covered a truly massive amount of ground today. We've gone from diagnosing the search box mistake to packing highly specific context backpacks, to building iterative drafting machines, installing rigorous truth filters, and finally, learning how to safely manage powerful autonomous agents. But as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final, hopefully very provocative question to chew on. Will you actively direct the machines, or will you just stop thinking simply because they sound confident? Look, the future of work, the future of human creativity, and the future of learning is absolutely not going to reward the person who just asks the laziest possible question and then blindly copies and pastes the first draft they get. That era is over. The AI era we are stepping into will disproportionately, massively reward those individuals who know how to instruct clearly, verify information rigorously, and continuously apply their own unique human taste and judgment to the process. Generative AI is arguably the most powerful collaborative tool humanity has ever built, but like any tool, it completely relies on your human vision to guide it. You have to draw the sketch. So, the next time you sit down at that glowing chat interface, I challenge you, don't just ask a question, actively design a task, provide the rich context, build a multi-step workflow. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive explainer, and please remember, keep leading the machine, do not let it lead you. See you next time.